Last time on True Fear, I talked about the crazy lady that I saw in a hotel. If that sounds interesting to you or you want to check out any of the first 3 episodes, I'm going to leave a link and there will be another one at the end of this video as well. So as most of you guys know, I'm a die-hard Cubs fan. So back in October, I booked myself a flight back home to Chicago so that I could be there when that moment happened, when the Cubs won the World Series. And that was probably the best 2 weeks of my life, and it was probably the most exciting World Series of all time. But one thing that kind of got overshadowed in the excitement was that I almost didn't make my flight out because of what happened on the way to the airport. So usually when I go to the airport, I take the metro to this coach bus that drops me off at LAX. It takes a few hours to get there and I have to leave pretty early to make all the transfers. So I get to the subway station and there's already a train sitting on the tracks loading up. The first 2 cars looked kind of full, so I kept walking down. And the 3rd car was kind of full as well, but I was afraid the doors were going to close, so I just slipped in there and sat down. Normally I would just go onto the closest car, but for some reason I chose this car. So I get into the car and I've got my headphones in. I'm not really paying much attention to the world around me, but I'm sitting there for about 15 minutes and I really start to get concerned because the trains are supposed to run like every 10 minutes or something. They make an announcement on the intercom that there is a problem with the train at the stop ahead of us in Universal City that was causing a delay, and as soon as that was cleared, they would be set to depart. I was thinking about getting out and taking an Uber, but I wasn't ready to throw the money that I had saved by taking the metro just yet, so I just decided to stick it out a little while longer. That's when I noticed some commotion going on in the rail car and took out my headphones. People were talking about some guy holding a shotgun. I turned around, looked out the window to see this metro security guard standing right there with a huge gun. So people were freaking out, and most of them remained seated. It was a pretty tense environment, and I was starting to get the sense that this whole thing about the Universal City train was a lie. There was this one gentleman in a brown shirt who actually got out and was talking to one of the security guards. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I assume he was getting information from them based on what happened next. He got back in and sat down a few feet from where I was. After that, there was some back and forth between this brown shirt guy and this other guy who was sitting way at the end of my car, who was wearing a gray shirt at the time. Basically, the brown shirt guy was telling the gray shirt guy to hop up off the train because he supposedly fit the description. The gray shirt guy was claiming his innocence, but the brown shirt guy suggested he should leave for his own good. Roll it.
They don't. Bro, they just described you. Hop off the train, bro. Yeah, just hop off the train, bro.
And then at the same time that this was going on, I'm just about ready to hop off and call an Uber when there's another announcement on the intercom. He tells us that they're still having issues with the train at Universal and that he was going to close the doors to our train so that when the issue is cleared up, we can leave right away. Clearly a lie. I can understand not wanting to raise panic, but when you're just clearly lying like that, it's just going to raise more panic and confusion. Now, we're all trapped on this train with the killer potentially inside with us. People are freaking out, calamity is rising. Back to the gray shirt guy. He won't budge, so the brown shirt guy starts telling him that he ought to take the gray shirt off or something so that he doesn't look suspicious. He actually did take the shirt off at some point, and he had a black wife beater on underneath.
Yeah, take that off or something. Hop up with the thing. I just got work, man. You might have to hop off, bro. They gonna do it. Bro, you just and why you take?
No, this is something wrong with the train up front. They come out here and shit.
Come on, Chance. You gonna slow us all up. You gonna slow us all up.
Another guy yells out, he went upstairs, which I guess is a suggestion that the one that they're looking for got off the train and went back up to the surface. I don't know where he got that idea. Maybe he just wanted the train to depart already. There were a couple other snippets that I didn't record, but I wrote down. I heard someone was arguing with the guy. He had a gray tank top. Another writer stated he had a 2-inch pipe and a wad of cash. Weird guy. Then, of course, there was the guy who seemed to think that every black male on the train was going to be shot.
Yeah, it's not a black male. You will be okay with this person.
Then at some point, the gunmen start marching up the platform, which, of course, stirred a big commotion in the train. He was joined by another guy with a handgun and the third guy who didn't seem to have a weapon. So I guess they were checking each car one by one or something. So eventually they busted into the rail car I was in. Roll it.
Black belt wearing a gray shirt, black shorts.
Universal walking towards North Hollywood to make sure that the individual starts but isn't on still on the right of way. I apologize for inconvenience and thank you for your understanding.
So you see they actually get off the car, and then something, I'm not sure what, tips the guy off, and the security guards or officers or whatever they are get back on and start questioning Mr. Grayshirt. They ask him if he had a gray shirt. I'm not sure what he said, and he pretty much gives himself up. So they escort him off the train. I'm not sure what happened to the gray shirt that he had on originally, to be honest. The other thing that confused me was when they came on the train, they said it was a gray shirt, white shorts. This guy had black shorts, so did they even get the right guy? Eventually I heard people talking and saying that this guy stabbed someone before getting on the train. When they started emptying out his pockets, they did pull out a knife, among many other things. Maybe they did get the right guy, maybe not. Maybe he's still at large, because one of the other things that I noticed was that they continued to search the rest of the train after catching the guy in my rail car. Now, right here we see what looks like an LAPD officer bringing in some other guy who comes up, looks at the suspect, and nods. I'm going to assume that this is a witness of the crime who they're bringing in to identify the criminal. If that was the case, then it seems like they did get the right guy, because after that the guards convened and seemed to be like making a plan to escort the suspect out of this train station, and as soon as that happens, the train gets moving. Before that, though, they made one last announcement on the intercom and said that the train ahead of us in Universal City was successfully taken off the track and we could get underway. And that's the part that I hated most about the way that this was handled. There are windows on the train. Everyone saw what just went on. We aren't stupid. There's no reason to lie and patronize your customers, dude. We got to Universal City, and there are a couple people who got on the train at that point, and I tried asking if anything had gone down at that stop, but unfortunately they didn't speak English, so I wasn't able to get any more information. I still have no idea how that guy in the brown shirt knew that the gray shirt guy was the one that they were looking for based on such a generic description. He may have very well saved us though, so props to that guy. The rest of my trip to Chicago was safe. Exactly 1 year after being eliminated on the day that Back to the Future 2 prophesized that we would become champions, I was on the way home for the finale of the NLCS. The next day, Kyle Hendricks outdueled Clayton Kershaw for the pennant, and then 12 days later, the drought came to an end and the ghost of Harry Carey could finally rest in peace. Speaking of the ghost of Harry Carey, join me next time on True Fear as I jump back to 5 years ago when the ghost of Harry Carey appeared in our group photograph. Not clickbait. I actually have proof, so if you want to hear about that, or if you're interested in any of the other horror shows here on this channel, remember to like this video and subscribe for new horrors every other week. Ring the death bell for notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Assuming we both survive.